From Mediaites, Trump ally Laura Loomer escalates MAGA civil war with wild claim Tucker is controlled by Muslims. So it's getting spicy.
Laura's great.
And you've got this, what do they say? The Washington Examiner's Robert Schmad reported on Qatar's big dollar efforts in May, writing perhaps Qatar's biggest victory in the post-election right-wing media campaign thus far was securing an interview between Tucker Carlson and Qatari Prime Minister Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani in March. The interview, which has racked up nearly 6 million views across X and YouTube, was friendly, with Carlson praising the country. Schmad added, Qatar paid top dollar to ensure this interview took place. Foreign Agent Registration Act records show that Lumen 8 Advisors, LLC, a legal consulting company for which very little public information is available, helped facilitate between Carlson and the Qatari dignitary. The embassy of the state of Qatar pays Lumen 8 Advisors $180,000 per month to provide media and communication coaching and consulting services. Loomer took that report a step further, claiming Carlson's interview with PM Al-Thani was a paid propaganda piece in which over $200,000 was paid by the embassy of the state of Qatar for Tucker to the interview. A Qatari official, all while knowing Hamas is an Iranian proxy and funded by Qatar. Loomer basically laid out that Tucker was getting this money. She said, Tucker's in an interview with Steve Bannon saying he was never paid, and she said he was a liar, and then showed this. The insinuation, of course, is that Tucker was given $200,000. But this has been the narrative that's emerging largely, not just from Laura Loomer, but from many that are pro-Israel and critical of those who are Israel critical, is that Qatar has been funding them. Now, I don't think Tucker Carlson got paid. I think when you look at this, you can see there's a foreign lobbying group probably reached out to Tucker and said, how can we make this happen? But Laura did make a good point. Who's paying all the travel and production costs? Is there any of that going on? Because what is the point of hiring a FARA lobbying firm to facilitate an interview? You wouldn't need to do it. You'd simply just, you're a government. You reach out to the agency or the network and you say, we'd like to do sit down with Tucker Carlson. So what did Luminate actually do in exchange for this money? Interesting question. I will also add, come on, look, I get people like tweeting at me, like Elijah Schaefer, he tweeted at me because Theo Von went to Qatar and then comes back and then says he thinks Israel's committing a genocide. I point that out and then get accused of claiming he's getting paid by Qatar to do so. Well, no, but I mean, what was his trip? What access was he given? It's right there. I don't know if anything's going on with Qatar funding or paying anybody or anything like that, but this is the current divide right now with a threat of war. You have this narrative now going more mainstream, particularly with Laura Loomer, that Qatar is paying a bunch of conservatives to be anti-Israel.
I mean, does she have evidence of any of that stuff, or is she just like throwing accusations?
I think everybody's just throwing accusations. But to be fair, paid? Well, a lot of these writers are using clever language. They'll say Qatar paid $200,000 for an interview with Tucker Carlson, not to Tucker Carlson for an interview. So look, we do stage shows, and we have a media company that comes in and sets up all the cameras and does all the work, and we pay for that. So if someone said Tim Pool paid, paid X amount of dollars for an interview with insert celebrity, it's like, no, that was a production company. But that's how you can use weasel words to make it seem like that. However, evidence, not proof. I mean, Theo Von did go to Qatar and he's got that video of him wearing the local garb or whatever. Yeah. And then he comes back and says Israel's committing a genocide. It was a really wishy-washy statement. It was like non-committal. And now he's very much in the anti-intervention camp. I'm not saying he's being paid. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with going to a country and then being convinced of something. I'm just saying, that's 1 + 1 = 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's weird, how she's paying this, the conclusion, you can't come to Tucker's conclusion unless you're being paid by a foreign government, the conclusion that we shouldn't go to war with Iran. Only someone crazy could come up with that, so they must have paid him. It's kind of a crazy implication.
I mean, sort of. That's kind of standard stuff when it comes to this topic. If you disagree with someone, there's a reason, and it's almost always you're somehow being paid by someone involved, whether it be Qatar or whether it be the Israelis. If you one of the things that people default to when you say, well, no, I don't agree because of this. If you see the things that I see and you don't come to the conclusion that I come to, then you must be doing it because you're paid. So that happens on both. Like that happens all the time with both Qatar and with Israel.
The foreign trips are interesting. I mean, in the election season, right, it came up that Tim Walz had been to China 30 times or something like that. And so I do think whenever there's these sorts of foreign trips, I think there should be questions asked of public figures in general. Just who are they meeting with, or what sorts of funding, or what sorts of funds are being exchanged. But yeah, the Qatar thing here, it doesn't seem like there's a ton that's substantiated, at least at this point. So.
I do think it's interesting that there's a lot of personalities that have, in the past couple of years, maybe even the past year or so, gone very heavy anti-Israel very quickly.
I mean, it does feel like it's a bit of it's like the edgy, it's like a containment breach, because like this next generation of political pundits are just completely allergic to any foreign intervention in the Middle East, rightfully so, because it's been such a disaster. And yeah, obviously going to ask questions of what were the incentives for us to go into the Middle East. But at the same time, when they just completely fixate on Israel, yeah, you do start to ask questions like, well, it's weird that they did visit countries that are extremely adversarial to Israel, and then they walk away with this like new agenda. That being said, on the flip side, if you watch the interview with Ted Cruz, I mean, Tucker wasn't picking on Israel. He was just saying, let's not go to war with Iran.
He was picking on Ted Cruz.
Yeah, it was like literally a struggle session.
And like Ted Cruz is like, he's generally very good in interviews, even combative interviews. So it was like, you know that it was totally like just at like.
But that's only if he's in a combative interview with someone from the left. But when he's getting attacked from the right of him, he can't respond.
No, he felt like he took a knife in the side.
And I got a question for you guys, because there was one exchange that I thought was really weird, and that was the issue of the Bible says blessed are those who bless Israel and cursed are those who curse Israel. Yeah. And Tucker's point was the Bible doesn't literally mean the current political state of Israel, does it? And Ted Cruz said yes. Is that the case? I'm not a Christian, so I don't know.
I mean, yeah, I'm a Christian, and you could go into all of theology, but the divide is dispensationalism versus covenant theology. And a lot of evangelicals subscribe to dispensationalism, which is every promise that God made to Israel is literal. He is talking about the current state of Israel. And people that subscribe to covenant theology say, well, when Paul addresses the church and calls them Israel in the New Testament in 1 Corinthians, he's saying that the church is basically absorbed all of the promises made to Israel. So it's a big divide in the church, but what's driving the Christian Zionism movement is that dispensational interpretation of the Old Testament covenants.
But this is still a different argument.
Well, I mean, yeah, so what Ted Cruz is saying, like, oh, well, it literally says that, it's because he has a dispensational theology. He's saying, no, it says right there, it's Israel. And then someone that subscribes to covenant theology says, no, Christians replaced Israel. We are now Israel. Those promises apply to the church.
Is that what you think Tucker is saying when he brings that up?
Yeah, Tucker subscribes to covenant theology. I think he's an Episcopalian. And he actually did a whole podcast with a theologian about covenant theology and dispensationalism. It's a big divide in the church. Typically divides Reformed Protestants to evangelical Protestants.
It's mainly because Protestants just look at the Bible and decide what they want it to mean.
All right, relax. We don't need a debate. We'll save that for culture war. But well, there's a lot of Catholics that have dispensational theology.
That's true too.
Yeah. So it's a divide. It's a theological divide that crosses sex, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But
I know that.
Yeah. Dispensationalism. It's very common in mega churches, like your Joel Osteen types. They're very big on it because it's very literal. It's like there's a verse where it says like, oh, God is gonna, you can build up treasures in heaven. So they're like, treasures? That must mean money. How do I get richer? Maybe I should go to Joel Osteen's church.
Yeah,
and it's like, meanwhile, Jesus is like, by the way, if you follow me, you're gonna get poor. That's just kind of how this works. But they kind of, stiff arm that. Yeah, it's a big problem.
Yeah, what's it called? When they say if you do this, you'll get money.
Prosperity gospel.
That's it, prosperity gospel.
You'll get money?
Yeah, prosperity.
I like that
gospel.
one.
It's a very uniquely American Christianity, too, because it blends what makes America great with what makes Christianity great, and the result is something very nasty and awful.
That's Protestant. It's a type of Protestant. Protestantism.
I mean, it's kind
Not
of
Catholicism.
gyrated out of Protestantism. Like it's non-denominationalism.
Oh, okay,
And
wow.
it's in the name, non-denominational. They're not part of a denomination. It's just kind of a free-for-all. And the pastor gets up and he gives like a TED talk, and they play like rock songs. And nothing there resembles church. It kind of resembles like Lollapalooza a little more. So yeah, it's a big disaster.
How you feeling, Mary?
Go to a good church.
I mean, yeah, you know how I feel about that.
I'm just watching you just squirming. Just like, God.
Shiver me timbers.
These heathens.
But somehow
Heathens.
if you're Ted Cruz, you extrapolate from that you should take money from AIPAC.
Yeah, that's literally his
That's
consensus
literally how it
saying.
works.
Well,
How much is he taking from me?
No, Christians are the chosen people.
It's true. Fact check true. Read 1 Corinthians. It says very explicitly.
Does it really?
Yeah, it says specifically the church has been grafted into Israel.
Ah, okay.
So not the current 1947 UN charter.
That's why Christians don't follow the old law.
I mean, yeah, I don't want to mix what is it, linen with wool or whatever. You go to hell for that.
Yeah, isn't that the most like stereotypical new atheist
Oh,
rebuttal
yeah.
that they're like, but you eat shellfish, so you're not a real Christian.
Like, oh, if
I don't
God,
even know how to
if
respond
God
to
is
something
good,
so
why does
stupid.
bad thing happen?
Yeah.
Like, there's a million.
That's
books on
definitely like the top rebuttal.
That's the one that I want answered most.
this. That would be a 2-hour-long podcast, probably.
Yeah, that has to be a culture war.
I guess the problem is you're approaching from good faith. Typically, people that ask that question are approaching from bad faith, like it's some gotcha. It's like, oh wow,
It's just the left doing it then.
what are you, Richard Dawkins? Yeah, you're a genius.
I figured it out.
What'd you do?
Yo, Ted Cruz is wrong. Okay? Israel's right here. Look,
It's true.
see this? Israel?
Is this somewhere in Middle America? Or
Israel's right here.
where are we?
And if we're going to be literal,
next to fellows.
then this is like
Virginia.
3 hours away from us.
Okay.
When the war broke out and they're like Palestine's getting bombed, I was like, didn't they just have a chemical spill? Like they're going through a lot over there in East Palestine.
If we're going to take it literally, then does that include Israel, West Virginia?
I'd say Americans are the chosen people.
Oh, wait, what is it called? Dispensationalism?
Dispensationalism. Yeah.
Okay, so if that is the argument that it's a literal reference to the people of Israel, and so that includes today, then there's going to be a subset of that, which would mean, right, because they're obviously going to make the argument that, no, obviously the Jewish people are the people of Israel, and that's where they were, and that's where they are, so that counts, right? So then there's going to be a subset where it says, no, it literally means Israel, but we choose what Israel is.
It's true. There used to be like up until like the 1950s. I even had relatives that were involved in this movement. It's called British Israelism, and they basically believed that the inhabitants of the British Isles were a lost tribe that migrated there, and it was actually like not ubiquitous, but it was like had a lot of people that adhered to that in America and England and Canada.
So it's like the Black Israelite movement for British people?
Yeah, literally, and it was a big thing. It drove a lot of like Freemason ideas. I wouldn't be surprised if a few founding fathers identified with British Israelism. It was a really big movement. Yeah, so I would make the argument that West Virginia is actually the Holy Land. I think there's a good argument for that.
West Virginia. That's why I'd take me home.
I mean, do they have cookout in Jerusalem? I don't think so. Doesn't sound very holy to me.
I mean, I imagine they do. They have nicer weather in Jerusalem, don't they?
I've been there a few times. Yeah. They
Kind of dry like California.
Oh, you've been to Jerusalem? Does that mean you're being paid by Israel?
It's true. Yeah. Any take that I have is actually fed to me by
He's Mossad.
but yeah.
If you've been to a country, you're clearly getting paid by their government.
I've also been to Qatar, so I'm actually kind of in the middle.
Ooh.
I've been to China, so I'm a CCP shill.
You've been to China?
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.